Perfect.
We're recording.
Same. Okay, no problem.
Oh, it's in. I can give that. No, we can't. Yeah, no. Technically, so this is. Oh, I have their 85 and then I have the ones. Co-founders. Did I not write it with you or? Let me just see what was sent you. No, I can't remember. This is all the current. That's what you received from the applicants.
Right.
I'm talking about what I sent.
Yeah, I would have it in here as well.
Oh,
I would send it to them. This is all like since our last meeting that's coming. Okay. If you just, it's on the May 15th.
I can show you where it's a term that they show lights.
Okay.
That's why I use 2 days a week.
Because then I can just change that. So it would be, I'm just gonna give this. Yeah, you're right. I just wanted to get it.
Thank you. I know you guys were lying, I just need to get down here.
I know.
Oh, okay, I didn't submit something for 6 Broad because they hadn't submitted it.
Okay,
Because they hadn't gotten their letter yet.
okay. Because that's all we were waiting on, correct?
Crazy?
I just gave my.
My dad went in for brain surgery last week.
How's he doing?
You all right?
Oh, good. Made it again. It's the second time. Good, I know. Oh, perfect.
You don't have to get up.
Comes up. What do you have? What do you have? You have a sheet? Columbia, Presbyterian?
I'll read my.
Yeah.
Here.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
clean up the site.
Check and make sure that's got ink.
Some pressure in there.
Oh, nothing, no regrowth or anything like that, just pressure?
There was a little something in there. They sent out for biopsy and all that for a couple of weeks. But
Just a little bit.
cleaned it up. It's been lucky so far. Almost 4 years.
Yeah, right,
And I'll
exactly.
change that tomorrow before we file them. Thank you.
But it's tough. Trying to keep
All right, 6:30, sir.
6:30, sir.
All right, welcome everybody to the Tuesday, June 17th Planning Board meeting for Village of Pauling. Amanda, would you like to take roll?
Sure, I'm sure will. We have Chairman Ron Pfister,
Present.
Member Lou Masella, Member Pete Pinelli,
Here.
and Member Mark Dalbasso.
Here. Lou, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
You stand?
Put it on the end.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's just that hour drive that gives me impatient, I guess.
Did everyone get a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
I did.
I just like to clarify something on page 10, where we were talking about the extension on Broad Street. We were talking about all the noise. I said, I know Josh and his background, and I know he can handle it. That sounds like he was a thug. I know Josh is a combat veteran, you know, a decorated ranger, and I meant to say that he's got the skills to handle anything in that regard. So I wanted to make sure that I wasn't saying anything derogatory about Josh.
Appreciate that.
Other than that, I read the minutes.
Can I get a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, first on the agenda tonight, we have Arch Street.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello, Kurt.
Sorry.
Okay. So, basically, I'm here tonight on behalf of Dr. Anabi. He's the owner of the site on the corner of Arch Street and Charles Coleman Boulevard, as well as the adjacent medical building where he has his dental practice in that. Just to give, I mean, I'm not sure who might be familiar or not with a little bit of history on the project. There originally was a building there. I think it burned down, was torn down at some point. And it's interesting because of the history geek.
To show the bridge.
Yeah, so there was an actual building that went across Arch Street, thus the name. So you can kind of see it's connected to the Dutcher House. I think there was a ballroom in that space.
A bowling alley, I think, or
Yeah.
something like that? Yeah.
Ballroom, right.
So, interesting, but anyway. So this project was approved it was owned by Mr. Lopez in 2006.
Arch Street.
And it was approved at that point for a 3-story mixed-use building with retail on the first floor and one apartment on each of the second and third floors of the building. Then it was purchased by Arch Street Partners, Bob Marini, late 2006, 2007. He came in and actually expanded the building on the approved site plan to 24 by 70, which is what it is now on the approved site plan. 3 stories on that as well. There was some going back and forth at the time. He was going to put his wife on the second floor in commercial space, so it was actually 2 floors of commercial and 1 apartment on the third floor. And then it ended up, the last approval that it was given was actually commercial space on the first floor with 1 apartment on each of the second and third floors. So what we're here today is to talk about the possibility of providing 2 apartments on each floor, so it'd be a total of 4 rather than 2. The 2 apartments were rather large in the approved site plan, so they would probably be 2 one-bedroom apartments on each floor. So, and I will mention that we granted waivers for parking spaces on the site, because there's no parking spaces on the site itself. We granted a total of 11 at one. The office does have parking on site at the rear here. They have this kind of L-shaped property that comes around this property. There's 13 parking spaces in there now. Dr. Anabi's business is only 2.5 days a week that it's open, so, and they don't have that many offices operational in there, so there's very limited use of that parking area in the back, so that could be used for parking spaces for this use as well. And there is ample, well, there's parking on the street, both along Arch Street on the one side and then Charles Coleman Boulevard.
That parking space, that parking lot in the back is virtually empty every time I go by it.
Correct. Yeah, again, he's only open 2.5 days a week.
How many offices are in the existing building that use that parking lot?
It's set up, how many dentists do you have in there? Is this you and
Just one day.
one dentist and how many dentists?
One hygiene.
So there's 2 offices basically in there. He has the entire building, he uses the entire building, but very limited use inside. It's all one space.
Right.
Just architecture, when we got this approved, we were told to kind of mimic the architecture of the Dutcher House. So this is essentially what it would be. So it'd be a 3-story brick building with a mansard roof, a couple of pop-out bays in the front, brick along the side too, as well, 3 stories. Storefront windows on partial on Arch Street and then along the front here. And then the corner was kind of, this would be the main entry of the building here. So off Charles Coleman Boulevard, you kind of, the road jogs out there, so you kind of see the front entry as you walk along from over here. This is to fit the cycle. Hopefully it'll be a nice infill for the streetscape.
I have nothing at this point.
Kurt, my only question is, so what you're saying is the existing office use, which is adjacent, the
Yes.
existing building, is limited. What is the full use build out? Say that business gets sold to somebody else, that office building is maximized. What is the related
The
parking? Because what I'm hearing, am I hearing that the waiver for parking, on-site parking, goes with this plan?
Correct.
And so everything's off-site.
Correct.
So my concern is that, if business use change, things get bustling, everybody wants to go there, there's new businesses come in, it's full maximized use, not just 2 days a week, it's 7 days a week. You get a lot of business in the town, that's great. What's that parking? That's
So,
gonna be my question.
When this was approved as a site plan here, the full build out of this was required to have 13 parking spaces. There are 13 parking spaces in the rear of that.
So
that's
that-
the full build out of that building, full use.
So full use, that lot takes care of that.
Correct.
So there's not extra lots,
That's
spots.
correct. We do have the idea that some shared parking also, the apartments typically would be used at night, commercial during the day. So in the evening, there would really be no use for these parking spaces, they'd be completely empty, so the residents here could park in that lot.
As long as there's an agreement between, right now it's a common owner,
Yes.
but they could sell, there could be different
Yeah,
owners.
but that could be
Right.
written in that
Right.
have to go with the property. Thoughts?
So could you go over the square feet of so the first floor is commercial,
Yes.
and what's the square footage of that?
First floor is 1680 square feet.
Is that, it could be 1 or 2 suites, is that kind of the idea?
I think the way this is kind of set up long and narrow with the front entry here and the stairwell in the back here, I think it really can only be one use,
Okay.
the way it's set up.
Okay. And then the apartments would be how big?
There'd be 4, so it would split the difference there, so they'd probably be about 2 800 square foot, 750, 800 square foot apartments in there.
And so Dr., is it Inabi?
Anabi, yes.
Inabi, he owns the dentist's office?
Correct,
And then he owns this parcel?
correct.
Okay. And when was this site plan most recently approved, generally speaking?
I think it went back to 2007, 2008, and then I think the planning board made Mr. Maridi come back like every 2 years to renew it, which isn't necessary, but it was done.
Oh. Resolution, just to see if there are any conditions of approval that might apply that we would need to consider.
And again, is it 2 spots per dwelling unit or 1 spot per dwelling unit?
One space.
One?
per unit.
One space? Okay.
I mean, this is the B1 district, correct?
Correct.
So in the B1 district, when he's talking about required, it's not technically required. Those are like he's referring to the ratios and the zoning regulations, which is great because he's looking at them as a guideline for what would be required. But in the B1 district, the planning board essentially has full discretion over how much parking can be provided or not provided.
And I think that's why they granted the waivers when they did it with the previous site plan approval.
Right, so it would be good to get a copy of anything having to do with that waiver because it will help theoretically, it will provide some rationale as to how those waivers were determined to be granted.
And Kurt, the only other question, so right now it's grass, the drainage, how's that going you're going to have some thoughts? You're
I
going to have
think
to,
we're going to connect to the municipal system that's along the street there. We'll have to look into it a little bit more.
Okay.
But
so those are my only 2 concerns, parking and drainage.
And is there a sidewalk around that corner,
There is a sidewalk along the front here, so we would be aligning to the front of the building. The property line actually comes out into the sidewalk, but we'll align the fronts of the buildings here. I think there's a partial sidewalk that just comes around the corner. I don't think, does it go the whole way along Arch Street? Does it connect to your parking lot? Yeah. It does, okay, so it does come around.
or, so, I guess, is there a need for improvement to that sidewalk, or the sidewalk is continuous? Is
The
that what you're saying?
sidewalk's continuous,
Okay.
yes, comes around.
There's no sidewalk on our street at that point. It's just a curb,
Okay.
grass and a curb.
All right, I misspoke then. So there is a sidewalk along Charles Coleman to the
Okay.
corner.
Right,
And then the curve goes along Arch Street.
right.
So we would be putting sidewalk from the curb to the face of the building along there on Arch Street.
Okay.
And there were variances granted for FAR and coverage and all that with the previous site plans.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. And those variances haven't expired? No.
It's part of the site plan approval.
Well, I mean, the site plan doesn't expire. I know that's what our code says, but I don't know that that's true for
Yeah, well-
variances.
It would depend on
Yeah.
if they conditioned the variances. They could say, you know, if you don't get a building permit, if the, or the all-ours
Right.
activity doesn't happen in the next 2 years, then you either have to renew. I'll look into it.
Yeah, because those
You
are
have
part
to
of
find
the,
information on those
Yeah.
variances.
because you need to get the variances to get the site plan approval, so basically.
Right. But some municipalities do condition
Yeah.
the length of time those
Okay.
variances will be live, so.
Yeah, I've had to reapply for many a variance
No, I
in my
understand.
day. Okay. Oh, I forgot the other question I had. Go on, everyone.
I'm just hoping actually this, just personally, it'd be nice to have a building there to kind of get the growth going down Charles Coleman Boulevard, to get this 3-story building there and have something happen as we move north. I think this is an interesting site. It could be the start of something possible, so.
Is it 100% lot coverage? I can't quite see
It's not-
to the
It's
end.
not 100%, there's a little bit of green in the back here, and the garbage cans go in the
Garbage
back
cans,
there, so.
yeah. Okay. Was there anything in particular in mind for the ground floor, retail or office, or?
There was some discussion, and I don't want to be held to it or whatever, possibly like an urgent care type thing.
But this is a while back now.
Well, this building never got built because of just economic reasons through the years, so I think there was some discussion about that possibly happening there. I don't know what the board's thought on doing something like that. If it was an urgent care facility, you know, just walk in with fever and stuff like that, not a full-blown medical facility, but.
I guess it would depend on how urgent care is defined by the zoning resolution as to how it would be treated. But yeah, I think if that was something you knew you were certain about, it would be best to
Okay. That-
bring that when you come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in terms of the thought of providing 4 apartments versus 2, is there an issue that anyone's concerned with just first flush?
I don't have any concern with that.
Not really, not on my end.
So I guess maybe work with Amanda, we can get some research done and just make sure we're all on the right track and moving it forward.
Sure, as far as what was previously approved, I mean, yes, without our site
I know
plans
she's done-
expiring.
I know she's done some preliminary work on it already and
All right.
gone through because there's a lot of records through the years.
What's the adjoining use there? Also residential?
Where?
But yeah, right, to the north, I guess.
That's the dentist office.
Oh, that's the dentist
That's the
office.
dentist
Okay, I
office.
thought you were.
Parking area, Arch
Okay,
Street,
follow,
so-
follow.
yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. And the dentist's office has residences above?
No, one story.
Oh, it's one
It's
story.
all one use.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. If the board is going to consider allowing the shared parking, you may want to memorialize that into an agreement or an easement, just in case there's
Sure, that'd be fine.
divestment of either
Yeah,
properties.
understood, yeah.
Yeah. I don't have any more questions. Anyone else?
All right, so thanks for the input, and then we'll talk.
File's out.
Okay.
File's out.
Okay, all right, very good.
Thanks, Kurt.
Thank you.
All right, next we have 48 East Main Street.
Oh, hello.
Back.
All right. Next one here. So this is a site. It's owned by, okay, so I'm going to kill his name probably. Arthur Slavzuski, I believe is pronunciating his last name. He purchased somewhat recently this property. It's on the corner of Spring Street, East Main Street. There's currently a building on there now, which is kind of a Victorian-looking building that's been a little bit bastardized through the years. And it's 5 one-bedroom apartments in that 2.5-story building. So the concept there would be to demolish that building and build a 3-story apartment building there, going for a special permit which would allow residential use on the first floor, because it is in the areas that's permitted to be considered for a special permit to allow residential on the first floor. And then there would be parking in the rear of the site here. This is actually the R3 residential just in front of the back of the property, but this is in the B1 district of the village. This building, kind of the footprint is just kind of put there. It's very similar to the building that we just put up at Pauling Commons, just to get a sense of what that is. I think we have a mixture of different sizes there. I think he's looking to do mostly one-bedroom apartments here on this building. We have ample parking, so we get 15 one-bedroom units here. I'm showing 19 parking spaces here now, so I think we have ample parking for that.
You would keep the footprint of what's there?
No, the footprint is this red line submitted here.
All right.
That'll be torn down, and this is the footprint. I just dropped in the buildings we have, which is similar. It's a little bit smaller than this one.
Oh, I see. I was thinking that was East Main Street across the bottom.
Yeah, no, sorry.
Yeah. My orientation was off.
So this is the little house
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
And where's the Baptist church there, Kurt?
I believe the church is here.
Right there?
Yep. There's that drive that comes in between the Baptist church.
Right.
Here. Jillian Stewart's office is right here.
Right there, yeah. Right.
Where's Pauling Commons from there?
It is actually, I think up here.
Okay.
The parsonage, I believe, for the Catholic Church is
Ah.
across the street. There's a little bit of vacant, a couple houses, and then it's.
Parking is always the issue.
Mm-hmm.
And parking is not an issue in this particular case.
Yeah, right now, I mean, it has to be fully engineered, obviously, but
Right.
just looking at this thing, I think we can provide ample parking for 15 apartments. We did 5 per floor, 15 apartments. I'm showing 19 with a handicap spot, so I think we have ample parking.
You're not showing a sidewalk in East Main?
We can certainly have a sidewalk there. That's not a problem. For the walkability, yes.
Sidewalks on this side of the street.
Yeah, but I think,
Sidewalk on this side.
yeah, but I think it would make sense on this to put a sidewalk. And again, just in terms of the special permit,
You can walk down to the body shop. I guess this is, what's that?
there's really no parking opportunities along East Main Street in this
No,
area.
right.
So really, for having retail space, yeah. So.
It's my only concern is the parking.
It's got plenty of room for parking, right? Your setbacks are,
Drainage,
Yeah.
and there's no,
This has to be fully.
right, right now, you're not considering any retail or anything on the first floor.
Correct.
Just retail parking from the back coming to the front from the sidewalk.
I just think retail is gonna have real problems on the street if, Pauling Commons is a little different because we have ample parking on site, we made a little area there, but I think most of the retail is in the village proper itself. Once we start spreading off into East Main, no one's really gonna walk there, I don't think, to get into a store.
Well, the residents there and then across the street, like you just said, the Pauling Commons. But,
Yeah.
again,
So there are areas that you can
Yeah.
park within walking distance,
Right.
should be fine.
So have you determined if the urban regs would apply to this?
I would think they would,
Okay.
yes.
And this is a strange lot, huh, the way it faces the road?
Yeah, I don't think there's any way we can build this on the property line.
Yeah.
I think we have to kind of find a happy medium in there and whatever we have to do.
Okay, so there would be definitely some variances being
I
sought.
think so. I mean, there's no way you can fit in a regular lot and try to put a building on it that meets all the requirements of the urban regs. The intent, yes. The
Mhm.
details, probably not.
Mhm, mhm.
you were saying architecturally, it would be something like Pauling Commons?
I'm just showing a footprint right now. It might be different. I mean, I don't think it would be, it might not be the white and the brick. It might be something else. I mean, that's something we can talk about.
I think he was,
Develop.
when you said that, you were more referring to just the
I was
footprint
just trying to
at
get,
that point.
just mentally, when you drive by, that's a similar type of a building that might drop into there. Architecturally, it might be different, but again, we want to follow the, enhance the village.
So the ground floor, which would need the special use permit because it's not commercial, how many apartments would you think
I'm
on that
thinking
floor?
probably 5 per floor, so
Uh-huh.
15, 5 per floor.
And those would be accessible, all 5, you think, or?
They should be, yeah. Yeah, that would be fun. Because we're pretty much on grade with everything. We have an elevator in there, so really.
You gonna make any senior citizen apartments in there? Or
Don't know yet. Yeah. I mean, I think our intent was to come to the board, kind of get a feel from the board how you thought about the project, and then I'm sure the owner has to crunch some numbers and make sure this makes good financial sense to do so.
The one-story frame to the, northwest, that's a residence?
Yeah,
Pretty tight right there, but you put some
it is. I think
landscaping?
we can probably jockey the
Oh, right,
footprint a
this,
little bit.
right, you haven't
Yeah,
quite sorted it
but
out.
I just think, yeah, we'll pay deference, obviously, to that house. But
Yeah, and this is residential lot here.
Mhm.
yeah, so we'd have good screening there, probably fence and vegetation along there.
And then on the north side, but that's also residential?
I think partially. I think the line pretty much it bisects that lot, but I think the line is on the back here. It kind of comes across these lots here. So
I guess what I'm asking is, the garbage truck picking up the dumpster,
Mhm.
who's on the other side of that property line?
yeah, I think that was Rob Wilson's house, or is Rob Wilson's house.
Okay.
I believe,
Yeah,
or
so
a
it's like-
rental unit or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like parking lot, kind of. It's weird in that area because you got the almost landlocked lot back
Oh,
in
okay.
there.
In other words, not an overly sensitive use.
I don't think so.
Okay. I mean, not that that's a showstopper, more just a screening
And
consideration.
there is an existing pretty thickly, it's an evergreen.
Right,
forest
right,
there
yeah, I saw that,
That
sorry.
runs on
Yeah.
there. I think they're fairly mature at the moment.
Oh, nice, okay.
Anybody else have any questions for Kurt about this project? No?
So
Yeah, I
move
mean,
on to the
but-
next step and
Yeah, I would say
make it
suppose,
real.
Yeah, you're gonna need some variance, obviously.
Yeah.
Because if it does have to meet the urban regs and just because of the frontage.
Right. I'm not sure we want it right on the street there either, so
Yeah.
but that's something we can work with the board with, as long as conceptually it seems to make sense.
The lot kind of dips down quite a bit off the street there.
It actually is, it's fairly, there's a high point here, but the actual part of the property here is fairly flat. It kind of drops off right in this corner,
From street level.
so we'd have to obviously work with that, but overall, the site is fairly flat. There's like a 18-inch difference between front and back, I think, as it were, so it's really not too bad.
Are you in the DEP watershed in that site, or no?
I think we are, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got the creek that runs down
Yeah.
the back.
So then it's like there's a different threshold for stormwater, not only for DEP, but in the village itself. I think it's 10,000,
Yeah.
20,000 maybe?
Yeah, we'll have to look
Yeah,
into
we'll have to look into that, yeah. But you haven't done stormwater testing or anything?
No, not,
Or
this is
soil
our, this is
testing,
our
rather.
first step, kind of just see what
Okay.
the board thought, and then we can move ahead. No glaring concerns in
No.
front? Okay.
I don't think so.
Can we verify the location, whether it's in the watershed for sure?
Oh, yeah.
Do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me know.
I believe that it is, but I'll double check.
Yeah, the village is split kind of like
Yeah.
half and half,
Right.
yeah.
All right, next on the agenda, 85 Charles Coleman.
You're stuck with me one more time. Thank you very much, I appreciate it. I think we had covered most of the issues at the last meeting, and I think it was, there was some sort of resolution that might be prepared for tonight.
Yeah. You have it there?
And just basically per Karen's review memo, all the site improvements have not been done per the approved site plan yet, so in order to get a CO, those will have to be in place, so they will comply with the approved site plan.
We talked about the door on the side of the building.
Sorry.
We were talking about the door on the side of
Yes.
the building.
Yeah, and I think
Striping that.
probably Sarah probably has some language put together for that.
Yes.
That's going to be a map note, you'll repeat that on there?
Yeah, whatever we need to put on the final site plan will be put on before it gets signed.
Does Kurt have a copy of the
I
resolution?
don't.
Well, he can have mine. Yep.
No, that's
I prepared a resolution for the board's consideration tonight to grant conditional site plan approval for this applicant. If you'd like me to read it into the record. Whereas the applicant Coleman Union Properties LLC has submitted an application for amended site plan approval for modifications to a previously approved site plan for a warehouse addition, including the installation of a 4,200 square foot partial second floor to be used as office space and minor building facade and site adjustments on property located at 85 Charles Coleman Boulevard, Pawling, New York. in the industrial and B1 zoning districts. Whereas the project is depicted on a site plan entitled Amended Site Plan, prepared by J. Creek Designs, LLC, dated April 23rd, 2025, sheets SP1 and SP1A, the site plan set. And whereas the applicant has submitted a revised short EAF dated April 23rd, 2025, and whereas on April 8th, 2025, the planning board classified the project as an unlisted action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and whereas on May 15th, 2025, the planning board issued a negative declaration of environmental significance, and whereas a duly noticed public hearing was held on May 15th during a duly noticed meeting during which all those who wished to speak were heard. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby grants the amended site plan approval to the project as depicted on the site plan set, and authorizes the chair or his authorized designee to sign the site plan set after compliance with the following conditions. Number 1, payment of all fees in escrow. Number 2, compliance with all conditions of the prior approval granted February 9th, 2021. Number 3, the overhead door to the north of the property shall be utilized only for emergency access, and that should be included as well as the plan note. Number 4, lots at tax parcel numbers 7057-17-039114 and 7057-17-045093 shall be consolidated.
All good?
So I've read the resolution. Someone would like to move to adopt that resolution as read, and then the board can vote.
I make a motion we adopt the resolution as read.
Second.
Could you take a roll on that, Amanda? Could you take a roll on that vote?
Yeah. Chair Ralph Lister,
Yes.
Member Louis,
Yes.
Member Pete Melling,
Yes.
and Member Mark Alonso.
Yes.
All right, Kurt.
Thank you very much. All right. See you again next month. Craig. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
See you, Kurt.
Send this over tomorrow.
All right, next on the agenda is 68 Charles Coleman Boulevard.
All right. Good evening. I'm trying to remember where we left off last. I think we were waiting for the water assessment, which came back, and then trying to control our customers a little more. I think we've done an okay job with that. I haven't had any more complaints, except Josh about you, Lou. He was upset. No. Yeah, so I think we're hoping to move forward as soon as possible.
Anybody have any questions for him?
No, I think he's got the noise was the issue. He's going to have that under control.
Yeah, I think that's really the only thing we need to discuss is
Yeah.
probably need some restriction on like the late night noise there.
Sure.
The hours now, I think might run a little bit late,
Mm-hmm.
just for the noise.
What are the noise decibels in the code?
So as from what I've read on the code, I think Amanda did send it over.
Yeah, so
The
we have
current-
copies of the noise code here.
Yes. It does seem fairly restrictive. There appears to be a requirement that no more than 65 decibels exit the property
At the property line.
at the property line, which is a fairly low
Pretty
volume.
conservative.
Right. Yeah, that's,
Oftentimes you'll see it set like at the 70 range or so during the day, but this one is during any time of the day,
Right.
65, right?
yes. Yes, and then I've highlighted some sections that are applicable to this project.
That level noise, roughly what does that sound like? Lawnmower?
Let me look it up.
I think a lawnmower's a little bit higher than that.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a normal conversation is probably, yeah.
Yeah, so the biggest restriction seems to be on using amplifiers or what they call sound reproduction devices. And that essentially states that you can't reproduce an unreasonable noise, and unreasonable noise is very broadly defined. So that seems to be a sticking point there. You've had no violations or anything for the noise ordinance, correct?
No.
Sorry, my phone is failing me. It's like not working.
I can't pull it up, I can't pull it up either.
Yeah, if anybody can pull up a decibel chart.
60 decibels is generally considered the level of a normal conversation.
Quiet office is 50 decibels. A light rain is 40. Toilet flushing 70. Vacuum cleaner 70. Anyway, it's very quiet.
Extremely quiet.
Yes.
Who's supposed to enforce this?
That would be, I guess that would be.
Code enforcement officer.
Sorry?
Code enforcement?
Yeah,
officer.
code enforcement.
Building department?
The only one.
Okay.
And that would only be if the village does have possession of a decibel meter.
They do have a decibel
Okay.
meter. They have.
So, I mean, I guess, part of the reason we wanted to make sure you guys had access to the code and to provide you a copy of it was so you know what the law is, right?
Sure.
And so at any time, obviously, the code enforcement officer could come out, but probably more likely if somebody files a complaint.
Sure.
I think that's, that's the purpose of us sharing this noise code. So from there, knowing that it can be enforced by the code enforcement officer, that you don't really need to worry about that part of it anymore. Now it's about the other aspects of the application and whether you choose to stipulate further, restrictions or considerations that apply to noise in general.
Well, with that being said, 60 decibels is just a normal conversation. Music can be an issue outside.
Sure.
So how do you intend to address something like that?
Well, so we keep our speakers they're in a very soft sort of ambient noise more than anything. The only thing that would produce sound typically would be our trivia night, and that's like, an hour of activity for families to come and play trivia, and one of his sections is music, but that lasts about 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
And what hours is trivia?
7 to 8:30?
Nothing past 9 o'clock?
No. And I mean, we're happy to amend the time that we're allowed to use that, an hour earlier if that helps, at 10 o'clock on weekdays and 11 o'clock on weekends. Right now it's 11 and 12, which we don't even want to use anyway. But we don't mind moving that to 10 and 11 if that's something that would help.
10 p.m. to 11 p.m.?
10 p.m. during the week, 11 p.m. Weekends.
They close the patio before the bar.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility, Sarah, that can we leave it sort of open-ended until we get complaints from, or justified complaints from a neighbor, and then we can revisit this and change it, or do we have to put a stipulation in right now?
Well, so in order to get to the negative declaration of environmental significance, noise is a factor in your review. So looking at the potential increase in effect from the added spaces on the patio, you would have to weigh that now. Potentially, maybe there's some compromise, like no use of like the amplifiers after a certain time, things like that, that would mitigate maybe some of the neighbors' concerns. As far as the enforcement of the noise ordinance, that's a separate issue for the village. And that really isn't something that I think you legally need to, it's the increase at the site from its current conditions that you have to weigh the impacts of.
At the last meeting, when the young lady came and was concerned about the noise, did she specify a particular time that she was hearing the loud noise? I don't recall.
She complained about the post office at 5 a.m.
Right.
But that's nothing to do with us.
We can't deal with the post office.
Right.
Yeah, I think she did
Mail
mention,
must go through
I think she did mention sleeping hours.
sleeping hours.
Yeah.
So let's say if nothing past 9 o'clock, as far as the trivia goes, and the speakers outside, would that when you work around that?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, it's, you know, it depended on every given scenario, but we try to have him done by 9 o'clock just for family's sakes. You know, they want to be out of there after playing trivia. So, you know, it potentially runs 10 minutes long every now and then, but, you know, we can ask him to stick to a firm schedule. And
I don't think anybody's going to be out there with a clock that says 9 o'clock, you got to cut everything loose.
nothing would surprise me these days.
And do you keep the outdoor music on after trivia's done, like on the patio? Will there be
It does
music?
revert back to ambient music, but that's controlled separately inside. So that could be turned off if necessary.
So you can sit out there for 9 o'clock at night.
You just have to sit in
have a
silence.
cocktail and talk, but no music.
Right. Well, and I guess the concern would be is the conversation going to be over the decibel limit now at 65, you know,
Well,
conversation.
we'll cover the things you can
Yeah,
control.
I mean,
The toilet is over the decibel.
Yeah.
Not according to Karen, according to the internet.
Well, I'm just saying what you were reading.
Yes, yes.
There's got to be a little common sense.
I'm hearing you.
So it sounds like, would it make sense and would it be feasible for you to stop any outdoor music or other amplified sounds that you control by like 9:30? Would that be
I believe so, yeah.
reasonable? That would give you that wiggle room with
Yeah,
trivia?
little,
Would
yeah.
that be weeknights and then a little later on weekends, or would that be?
Yeah, so,
I mean,
weeknights.
Instead of that, I mean, because the noise ordinance is what it is, and that's the law. If they just put a note, they're gonna, which is redundant, but they'll comply. Whether they're outside till 9:30 or whatever it is, they gotta comply.
yeah.
So why, you know, if someone wants to sit outside and they got low-level music and they're quiet.
Well, but purportedly, you know,
No, I'm just saying.
they might
they're
have been
quiet and
beyond
they're-
those levels now, and there's
Right.
been no enforcement. So, I mean, you're considering the approval of the expansion and the increased environmental effects resulting therefrom.
Okay.
I think it's also important to point out the expansion
Right.
moves away from that property.
Right.
It's moving people further away from the property in question.
But it's adding seats. You already have seats along, you know,
Sure.
right? I mean, it's not moving the group of people away, it's adding seats. There's already people. here.
Right, but it's adding seats in the direction away from
Okay.
the residents.
Right.
I understand what the young lady just questioned, because we said 9:30, we were saying during the week, what about the weekend? I mean, not everybody was out, most of his business, I would say, would be mostly Friday night, Saturday night.
Correct.
Sunday night, people start to go home or
Sometimes.
I mean, is there a time that would seem more reasonable to cut off outdoor music and amplified sounds? Just what the applicant can control, whether, you know, turning down the music or turning it off, or...
Right, the hour. I mean, would you guys be comfortable with cutting it down from an hour from where it is now? He's at 11 and 12, the 10 and 11. Music has to be off by 10 during the weekdays. has to be off by 11 on the weekend.
I think 10 on a weekday is a little much for me
A
personally.
little late.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say 9 o'clock during the week.
Excluding
Well, when do you
Friday.
have trivia though?
Thursdays.
Okay. So Thursdays they are expecting to have amplified sounds up to about 9:30.
9:30.
That would be a busy night then Thursday, during
9:30.
because it's your trivia night. That would.
I think that's doable. Yeah, I think we can make sure that's taken care of.
Okay, so maybe any outdoor music or other amplified sound will cease at 9:30 p.m. Sunday through Thursday. And then is there any thoughts on weekend restrictions, if any? So
No.
at least that covers school nights.
No. Let them have a good time on the weekends.
4 a.m.?
Very good.
I used to be able to rock my radio. I used to be able to do that back in the day.
Back in the, oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't put any restrictions on the weekends.
Because there's still the noise ordinance to contend with.
Yep,
if
absolutely.
it is
Exactly.
enforced.
Right.
Right, but you still have to keep it under those decibels during
Yeah.
those times as it is. All right, so that's the only stipulation we're putting there, 9:30, Sunday through Thursday.
That's what the board wants to do?
I'm sorry?
Is it, that's what the board wants to do?
That's a condition?
Yeah, yes.
So, so we weren't sure what you all would want to do, but we thought you might want to approve the project tonight and make us, well, in advance of approving a project, close out the environmental review. So I prepared the seeker part 2 and 3, which allows you, if you so choose, to declare a negative declaration. And Amanda's got copies of it. So, essentially, there were two things there were several things we considered as part of the environmental review, but the things that rose to the top were parking and noise. So, we've obviously just discussed noise. The part 3 mentions the noise code. As you know, obviously they're going to have to adhere to the noise code, and then the planning board has just added some additional restrictions. As it goes for parking, we did ask the applicant to provide to us information about existing parking that would be available to their guests during the evening, and to disclose, what they anticipate to be other establishments that use that parking at night too. They let us know what their peak parking period was. I was able to find the parking study that was done in 2018 by another private applicant that was submitted to the board. The study was done by Mazer, and the numbers that our applicant gave us in terms of parking supply numbers gelled and was consistent with the numbers that we got from the Mazer study, so that was great. And with the addition, when we also consider the parking that's available on the east side of the Metro North Railroad, based on the 2018 study, there is adequate parking available for people coming to his bar, as well as the other existing establishments in the area right now. So I think we're in good shape there, and we appreciate the applicant taking the time to show that due diligence on parking.
Amanda, before you get comfortable, would you mind passing out the draft negative declaration as well? That you can consider potentially after you've considered the parts 2 and 3.
Yeah, so I'm done doing my summary of part 3. Part 2, you have the questions. I've provided a sample response for you guys. Perhaps you read through it. Make sure you're comfortable with that. And then this is
The other part, you also check for water and sewage, you know.
Water and sewage, yep.
Regeneration from the bathrooms.
yes, and that's right. And the Pauling Joint Sewer Commission and the village's water consultant both assessed and determined there was adequate capacity. The Pauling Joint Sewer Commission asked for an additional condition on the approval that they'd be able to come in and check the grease trap, which we'd already kind of talked with them about. And these, the applicant, you know, did the due diligence of reaching out to the DOH and making sure that their permit was adequate for what they have in place and what they need. So that was great.
I know we discussed this in the past, but refresh my memory, we're not going to hang anything from the fence.
Yep.
No signage, no graffiti, no bicycles or anything like that.
We're actually going to take all that stuff, anything that's there is coming down, we're going to sort of
Okay, good.
redesign the interior a little nicer, is the hope.
And there's nothing on the exterior now, the exterior side, if you're looking from.
No, inside is not a problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Exterior, okay.
So, did she, oh, she's bringing over the neg deck.
She's making additional copies.
Yeah.
I think we were short a couple.
Okay. So I guess if Sarah wanted to go over that, then you guys could decide, right?
With the negative declaration?
Or do you want them to just vote? I don't know. What's the next
I
step
was
here?
thinking, well, so the next step would be, because the part 2 is the planning board's document, you would move to adopt what Karen has prepared for the board's consideration. And you can adopt both parts 2 and 3 if you'd like to move on those. Once the board has considered both documents, then you'll consider the potential negative declaration of environmental significance. Oh, I have one. So
Thank you.
Can we adopt both parts in one motion? They're separate.
you can. I don't see an issue with that.
Let's,
Have that back.
As the board reads through the negative declaration, I'll just state for the record that the first whereas clause on page 2 should read May 15th, 2025, as the wrong date.
what was that?
The first whereas clause on page 2 of the draft negative declaration,
Yeah.
the date that should go in there is May 15th.
motion to,
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we adopt parts 2 and 3 of the short environmental assessment form.
Not second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think this is a great time for you to sign it.
Sure.
Awesome. So that's your copy.
Okay, so next for the board's consideration, now that you've had a chance to review, is the draft negative declaration. Rather than read the full resolution into the record, I will state for the record that it is a public document. It should you wish to review it. That being said, if the board would like to consider a motion to adopt as written, you could do so.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, and the last thing, I've also prepared a draft resolution to grant the conditional site plan approval for the project. Do you have copies of that?
I have that one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think the only thing that's missing here is the condition suggested by the Pauling Joint Sewer Commission for the,
Yeah, I've amended the conditions on here as we discussed, so I'll add that in.
okay. And it's allow PGSC wastewater treatment plant operators and village to complete an inspection of the existing infrastructure, including the grease trap. That's 1. 2, verify the existing grease trap has capacity to handle the proposed additional flows. This should be confirmed prior to discharging any additional flow from the facility from the expansion. So following the approval, you should get in touch with them right away so that doesn't hold you up.
Okay, let me pull that up so I can read that in.
Here. I'll just pass that down.
And then I'll finalize this tomorrow and get that over to you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So then, number 3, any outdoor music or other amplified sound will
Yes.
cease at,
And so it should read at 9:30 PM Sunday through Thursday, and then the rest of that can be stricken. And I'm going to substitute the Pauling Joint Sewer Commission conditions for number 2.
okay.
All right. So this is the resolution to grant the conditional site plan approval. Whereas the applicant Sal Teray LLC, DBA O'Connor's Public House, has submitted an application for amended site plan approval for modifications to a previously approved site plan to extend the back patio to add approximately 1,500 square feet for a total patio area of 2,312 square feet, as well as for the addition of a 60 square foot, 6 foot tall wooden fence on property located at 6 Broad Street and 68 Charles Coleman Boulevard, Pauling, New York, in the B1 zoning district. Whereas the project is depicted on the site plan entitled Proposed Site Plan Outdoor Seating, prepared by DC Engineering PC, dated March 21st, 2025, sheets C100, site plan set. And whereas the applicant has submitted a revised short environmental assessment form dated April 8th, 2025. And whereas on April 8th, 2025, the planning board classified the project as an unlisted action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act. And whereas on June 17th, 2025, the planning board issued a negative declaration of environmental significance. And whereas a duly noticed public hearing was held on May 15th, 2025, during a duly noticed meeting, during which all those who wish to speak were heard. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby grants the amended site plan approval to the project as depicted on the site plan set, and authorizes the chair or is authorized as a need to sign the site plan set after compliance with the following conditions. Number one, payment of all fees and escrow. Number two, the applicant shall allow the PJSC WWTP operators in village to complete an inspection of the existing infrastructure, including the grease trap. This is going to be amended. Number three, the applicant shall verify the existing grease trap has the capacity to handle the proposed additional flows. This must be confirmed prior to discharging any additional flow from the facility from the expansion. And number four, any outdoor music or other amplified sound will cease at 9:30 p.m. Sunday through Thursday. Okay, so I've read the resolution into the record. If the board would like to consider it at this time, you may do so. You just need a motion to accept it as amended.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second with it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's 4 ayes.
Very good. Thank you guys very much.
Can I just ask a quick clarification question on the sound? So in order to be in compliance, we will do some tests to see like what the sound currently is for decibel measurements, but then do we come back here to apply for a variance if it's like 80, say, or what will be like the next steps to make sure we're in compliance?
So it really, there is an ability for the planning board to grant a variance of the noise ordinance. It's built into the code.
Yeah.
I have to be honest, I did not review that very thoroughly
Yes, just
before this
looking at it.
evening. You may want to take the decibel meter readings just so you know where you're with it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you need a variance.
Okay.
Yeah, just reading any unreasonable hardship to the applicant. I mean, losing a trivia night would be a hardship.
Yeah, so read through that local law
Very
and
good.
see if you qualify.
Thank you all. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Amanda, do you want this back?
No, they're on yours.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Okay, one more. 3 Memorial Ave.
Yes. Wait till you call me. Sorry. Sitting's killing me. Okay.
Hello. Do I need to state who I am again?
Yes, please.
Okay. Megan Deneau from Carmel Creamery, and we're trying to open a scoop shop at 3 Memorial Ave. I submitted everything that you asked for and answered your questions, so I hope that kind of is good. Let me know if you have other questions.
So last month was a sketch conference, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Show the inside and outside the office.
Okay. So let me pull up my.
That was your question last month. How much water uses in the sewer usage?
And we got their letter as well from Cedar Wood, so.
Okay, so yeah, the first question I had was about water demand and wastewater generation. And we got, as Amanda just said, that information from the Pulling Joint Sewer Commission. They also requested that you have a grease trap size, so you'll need to provide that information, that detailed information to us. You must have one at your existing.
Yeah, we have, I'm on all the sinks, so we were planning to do that anyway, so.
Okay. And then generally speaking, if you need a grease trap, it has to go in for Department of Health approval?
Yes.
Okay.
I knew that, yes.
So you're familiar with that
Yes, correct,
process?
yes,
Awesome,
yes.
okay. So what you would want to do as you move forward is include us in that correspondence.
Okay.
Not so much that you have to like copy us on every email or anything like that, but just provide us like their comment letters and your approvals.
Okay.
Okay?
Gotcha.
So number 2 was about the will serve letter, which we got. Number 3 was about will serve letter, which we got. I questioned what the water/sewage line across exterior wall note on the layout was. So I just want to confirm, you guys have written exterior wall. Is it like outside, the outside wall?
No, inside the building. I don't know if you've been in this space, but they're there's a wood beam. So it would just go from the kitchen to the back wall where we need the water and the sewage, just along that beam.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be like going through walls or underground or anything.
Right,
Exposed, I guess.
so, plumbing on the indoor of a building is not under, not specifically under the purview of the planning board. That's something
Okay.
that you would need to seek guidance from your plumber
Yes,
on.
I already have someone
Okay.
that came in and they gave us all that.
And the building inspector. Okay, good.
Okay.
I was questioning if it was outside because.
Yeah, no, I guess my
Okay.
writing, I can see that.
That's
Sorry.
fine, that's fine. So they have not provided a survey, and they're requesting a waiver on that. So that's something we need to consider. One of my questions related to that was, so you provided an aerial showing where you were gonna put your tables and chairs. And you mentioned there was a dumpster?
Yeah, there's already like a dumpster there that's enclosed in like a gate.
Okay, and a refuse, we call them refuse
Right, okay.
enclosures, yeah.
Yes, okay.
No, I mean, so does a garbage truck come in, so I'm assuming a garbage truck needs to access that
I'm not totally
location.
sure.
Yeah, I
I
would
could find
think
that out.
so.
I'm not sure if they pull them down to the road. I don't know.
Okay, well, so that's an important consideration.
Okay.
Because obviously we don't want interaction with,
Well, I would assume they wouldn't be coming during the evening, right? Garbage usually in the morning. don't
I
know.
would assume not, but, so maybe that takes us to hours of operation.
Okay.
You probably have that somewhere in your application.
Yeah, it would be opening at noon or 2 o'clock till like 8, 9, depending on the season.
Okay. And so you mentioned, I think briefly in your response, lighting. So we would need to have more information on, like the types of lighting. So if, for instance, if you know it would be good to know the manufacturer, which has like a spec sheet. And the
Okay.
spec sheet will give.
I mean, we wouldn't be adding any lights other than what's already there.
No?
No, there's sconces like outside along that walkway in the outside area.
Okay.
And then lighting within the space. So we wouldn't be adding any lighting.
No added lighting?
Yeah.
Okay. You have control over that lighting? Because I guess you're not gonna, you'll have that area open for outdoor seating during the warmer months when the
Correct.
light
Yes.
is lighter until
Yeah.
about 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't really need control of
No.
it per se, except maybe for
I
safety.
think like right
if
at the
somebody's
entranceway
leaving?
is controllable, but the sconces I think are, they go on automatically.
Oh,
so.
okay, okay. So, I don't know if you guys want to consider whether you want a survey, whether you want to waive a survey, we don't really have a real site plan here. I'm certain, I don't have a strong opinion either way. I can certainly appreciate the cost, in gaining a survey and having a true site plan. I am a little nervous about I think we need to know more about the garbage and its location and maybe I don't know, where are you going to store these chairs and tables? Do you have room inside to store them? Or are they going to be stored
They would
outside?
just stay there. I mean, if they need to come inside
Well, I'm just wondering about like an
They're just gonna be like aluminum,
interaction with the.
with
so-
the garbage truck, I understand what
So
you're saying.
the problem is that like without a site plan, we don't have like something
Yeah.
dimensioned to be like, oh, there's ample access way for a garbage truck. You know,
Gotcha.
it needs a leeway of X space, it needs a turning radius of
I mean,
X
at the end of the
space.
day, like, I'm not gonna live and die on these, like, outside tables. Like, if that's really, you'd prefer is not to have them, that's totally fine too. I would assume at night we could stack them up and move them to the doorway, so there is room for the truck.
There is no actual dumpster there now, right? There's just bins that get
I think it's
brought
just
out to the
bins.
road.
Just
So
there
they,
was
no,
the
they're
refuse
probably,
enclosure.
I think it has the bins that get brought out to the
Oh,
road
okay.
that you just open the gates
Okay.
on. So
Maybe you guys need to take a trip there and,
I mean, Claudia is here, who's the real estate agent on it. She's outside at the moment, so she may have more,
okay.
since it's their office. But,
That's what the McGrath real estate office.
Correct.
used to be.
Correct.
Right up that driveway. I don't see any garbage
so-
backing up there to get trash.
yeah, so I would guess it's garbage cans.
No.
So
You
right
have
along
to bring
this,
the garbage cans to
right
the
along
curb,
this
like-
line
like
is the
everybody
bread
else does.
company's patio.
Sorry, the
The bread company's patio that's
Okay.
over here, so they have an outdoor patio here that's sectioned off with a piece of fence.
So you don't think it's an issue?
The trash
Is there a truck driving back there or not? There's no truck going back there. That's fine.
Can an emergency vehicle get there? Is this driveway big, is it,
Yes,
or are they gonna?
yes,
They
they're
could.
big enough, yes.
And they could have planters or something up front to keep people from driving up and parking out. I'm not familiar with the area, so.
So it's like a double driveway there, really. It's a wide alley that there's parking for.
I think we need some photos.
Now you're right.
Okay.
And
All
the
right.
board may want to consider a site visit. I mean, it's not going to hold anything up at this point, just to, if you're not going to have the benefit of the survey, just familiarizing yourselves with the site.
Let's go on a field trip.
We'll walk down here right now.
I mean, can you see it from the window?
I mean, I don't mind walking there after the meeting and taking a look.
I mean, we did it. I've never driven by and seen cars up in there, so I don't think Dancing Bear or whomever is on the right side uses that driveway either. But like I said, we would put an A-frame sign at the end that just kind of blocks that off anyway, so no one would be pulling up while we were open.
Well, who has ownership and management of that driveway?
I'm
Is that-
guessing McGrath does.
Yeah.
Okay,
owns
so it's up to them how they want that handled. Do they not park there? I would think they would park there.
No.
No, they don't, nobody parks in the driveway.
Oh, okay.
I
Where
mean,
did
Brian,
you say?
I was going to say Brian McGrath has said that he's willing to do whatever needs to be done
Oh, okay.
for this project, so if that was a concern, I'm sure we can put something more permanent there if you wanted to kind of be more known that that's not a driveway.
Where did you say the employees were gonna park? In the merch?
We don't have 2 employees on at a time. I guess they would park where
In the-
everyone else parks in the
Okay.
village. They're going to be
Employees-
teenagers.
Employees can get emergency parking permit from the village clerk, and they can park in the MTA lot.
Okay, okay. I figured most of them will be teenagers anyway. They're probably going to come from school. They probably live right in the village. You know, so parking may not even be an issue for them. Parents drop off. You know.
Do we need to make a decision on the waiver for the survey before we proceed with seeker, or is that, or can that wait?
I think it would be best to make a decision on that as soon as possible, just because,
It's a kind of foundational item.
Can you ask McGrath last time you said that building surveyed?
Well, the architect that put this all together was trying to find a survey, and they went all the way back. I guess he hadn't had it surveyed, and the previous owner only had like a little like sketch thing that wasn't really anything. What is the survey, if I can ask, is just a more detailed planning to kind of see?
For me, it's the access. So McGrath's owns the driveway, and this is separate from that, or is that?
There's a building in front, so they own that building, Then there's the back building where they have their offices, which is what we're
That's
trying to
what
do.
this-
And then, so they own that whole space.
And if one sells the other, then they don't have control. That's, I'm not familiar with the
Oh.
access, so
As
I'll
far as I
walk
know,
over, maybe.
yeah, as far as I know, it's split down the middle. That alley there, that
Right.
driveway is.
So
split.
half the
of
driveway
it's
to
on
one,
Grass, half
and
of
the-
it's part of one memorial.
So if one property sells, it doesn't affect the access to this, because they have one side.
I guess
Is
so.
there a common easement? I mean, right now it's the same property owner. Is there a common easement if they ever sell for access?
No, half the driveway is owned by 3 Memorial.
Yeah, do you want
The other
her
half of the
in here?
driveway is owned by 1 Memorial.
Also, different properties
Yes,
all together?
yes,
Okay.
yes. As far as I know. I mean, I put down a survey, I can't tell you exactly
Right, that's
where
what
the
I'm
line
saying.
of that driveway
I don't-
is.
I don't,
We want to issue real estate.
yeah, I don't know the site.
Okay, just stand right here. Okay.
Everybody,
Hi.
Claudia with McGrath Realty.
Yep, hello.
Hi, so move on.
We're wondering about the driveway. Who controls the driveway? What is its use over time? If the realty office were to sell or become occupied by somebody else, what would be the implications for the driveway?
So Brian McGrath, he owns that building, and right now he has never given anybody access to that driveway, so it's always pedestrian.
Okay.
Never have we used it, or does he want to have it in use. To the right is Dave Daniels' building. I don't know how they handle that, but I think it has something to do with the station inn.
When you say to the right, do you mean like are you splitting this
driveways.
driveway in half? Oh, it's 2 driveways right next to one another?
Exactly.
Okay, so there's a driveway on Dave Daniels' property,
Exactly.
and he does what he wants with it.
Yep.
And then there's a driveway on McGrath's property.
Right.
And so far, nobody ever parks there.
Right,
Okay.
right. It's never an intention for anybody to be driving on it or parking on it or anything.
And what was previously in 3 Memorial?
Our real estate office.
Okay, and you guys have just consolidated into a smaller space?
We're
or-
on Main Street.
Oh, you moved?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I've seen it, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys have other questions for her?
Yeah, so the one side that you own, they will now be able to use.
They will be able to use, we use it for walking, to get
Right,
to the
but
back.
that goes with this. So the side, there's 2 driveways or 1 driveway split. One is not theirs, although people use it, that's fine. The side on the left goes with this property, it's
If
used.
I remember correctly, when this Nancy Bear went in, that was part of their emergency exit plan, was about that back door, down that driveway.
That's Dave Daniels' side,
Yeah, but she leases.
not our side.
Yeah, he leases the patio
Yeah,
to the dancing yard.
so that area
Well, like is that half?
is a walkway. Can't be used for anything else, that's part of it.
Yeah, you got it.
Well, you're talking about Dave Daniels.
Dave Daniels has his own driveway.
That's two
Bless you.
different properties.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah. But even Dave Daniels or the Dancing Bear never had any use of Brian McGrath's driveway.
No.
No.
It's just a driveway, I know where it is, running through the alley.
So the applicant's proposing tables and chairs essentially on the driveway adjoining their office.
It's a back courtyard
Okay,
where she's talking about, not the driveway.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You wouldn't go down the driveway and park onto the back courtyard area, because the back courtyard area is basically the entrance to the 3 Memorial.
Okay. So you had said that you would use the driveway during outside of business hours to load in ice cream and supplies.
That would be the only way that we would ever use that driveway, but we can also just park right there at the entrance and load up and walk it up, or just the ice cream tubs and bags.
I'm just, I don't have an issue with it, more that just trying to confirm what
Yeah.
would or wouldn't happen and whether they would, because if you're gonna use it, then you need an access easement to use it from
So then we
the
wouldn't
owner.
have to use it, we could just pull in one of the spots there, it's easy enough. It's not that far.
That's what we do when we had the real estate agency. We just parked and brought stuff in.
Yeah.
All right, well, one of the things we haven't talked about is parking. We also need to consider setting a public hearing. I don't believe that they submitted a short environmental assessment form. I don't think so. Yeah, that was something that they waived. It may be that we could do this as a type 2 action, and Sarah and I can look into the viability of that idea over the next review period. We're not holding it up because you have to do, you don't have to, but generally speaking, you all have chosen to do public hearings. Assuming you're doing a public hearing, you're setting that for next month.
We can do that. I guess the one thing I ask is maybe check with Dave Daniels, because he just had his building redone not that long ago. See if he has a recent survey, just so you can definitively see where the line is
Okay.
in the driveway. So if there does need to be some pedestrian barriers between the driveway and your access, if there is going to be a lot more people probably before than the real estate office, if there's ice cream and you got a lot of people walking in and that got the driveway right there that's open, just some kind of whatever, just some kind of separation for the walkway.
Put some planters or something.
Yeah, something
totally.
just right.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. So at least we can decide how that's set up based on where the property line is. Even if it's not his property, the McGrath's property, we can at least see where Dave starts if he has a
You
recent
can,
survey.
if you go there, you can see because one is brick.
One is brick and
Yeah,
one's
it's
paved.
Correct.
Right
Yes,
there.
yeah, you can totally
It's kind
see.
of obvious.
Just
We follow the brick back to us, and then he's paved.
Maybe you can ask him and see if he has. He
Ask
probably
Dave.
does. If he has, yeah.
Not a problem.
Maybe.
So
We
you-
feel better about waiving the survey. Just that's something, or a drawing of what that looks
Right.
like out there.
Okay. We can ask Dave.
Have you guys spoken with Dave? Is Dave aware of this application? I mean, is he aware of the potential leasing of the space?
I don't know.
I don't know who Dave is.
I don't know. Does he need to be?
I mean, he doesn't need to be, but it could be helpful.
Okay.
As far as parking goes, at your existing location in Carmel, do you have parking?
We have a parking lot, yes.
You have a parking lot. And how many spaces does it have, more or less?
15.
Okay. I think a good way for us to assess what a potential parking demand for this facility would be to do a little bit of a parking analysis at your existing facility.
Sure.
So first, I just want to go over the differences between the two facilities. So
Okay.
at your Carmel facility, you make ice cream, right?
Yes. And we have food.
you have
and
food.
we have a whole backyard, so people tend to come and stay. And
Okay.
It's a whole
So it's
experience,
a
I guess.
much bigger operation, in other
Yes.
words.
Here would be more, just probably getting ice cream, people that are walking around, people who live within the village. I'm
Yeah.
not necessarily expecting like tons of people to come with cars here. It's more for our customers that are within the village and here that come down to Carmel. So it's kind of just giving them an option.
Great. Well, you have specialized ice cream, right? It's
Correct.
vegan or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's all local. It's all dye-free. We do have vegan. We have,
Right, okay. Well, that does make it harder. So the existing operation has a full food service component?
wings and chicken fingers and stuff.
Yeah.
Fryer menu.
Yeah, it's not really apples to apples.
I mean, I guess if you're going to compare it to anything in the village, it would be similar to like tacos and cones, where people are going in, they were getting their ice cream and they're hanging outside and they're walking away. You know what I'm saying? It's not, we're not going to be doing music or events or anything there. They're not going to be lingering. It's more just.
But you're selling tubs of ice cream?
We
Like
sell pints.
Pints, you're selling pints?
Yeah, so people like in the apartments would probably go and get some of those and go home. So I would base it more on like
And
walking traffic.
What's the story with tacos and ice cream? What's it called? Tacos and...
It's something else now.
It's done. It's done. Okay, so this is in a sense replacing that, minus the tacos.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
that's a good
Yeah.
storyline for parking.
Right, it's kind of a change of use in a sense, like, I think I went over this with the building inspector as far as what an ice cream shop is considered as far as its designation, like outside of like retail in a sense.
Well, it's food.
Right.
But my point is that you had people come into tacos and what's
Tacos and cones.
tacos and cones. Sorry, mental break there. You had people going there, but now it's closed. Now the same people are going to go there, presumably, right? So
Hopefully.
Which is a better location, actually.
It's a safer location.
Memorial Avenue, yes.
so
And better parking. It's
Yes.
so much easier to park on Memorial Avenue than
Yeah.
East Main Street. You
East
can't
Main
park on
Street's
Main
the worst.
Street.
No, definitely.
yeah,
You know?
so I guess in your experience with tacos and cones, did you see any parking problems over the course of their?
No, people usually just park right there, get a cone and leave. I mean, there wasn't, some people sat in the outdoor seating that they had, but I assumed that they walked there.
There wasn't double parking going on, or
Double parking? No.
okay.
No, parking wasn't an issue.
Actually, where they want to go is a lot better and a lot safer.
Yeah.
Okay. And parking on Memorial during their hours of operation, which is, anywhere from 12 to 8 p.m. What's the parking supply on Memorial?
12 o'clock, Jake, it could be, get a little congested. We have the station in, we have the hairdresser.
It'd be like, when we had a meeting, somebody had to park down at the bottom.
Walk shop, it opens, not open.
That's not open that far.
Walk shop's closed now.
Okay. All right, so I think we're going to need to consider the parking a little bit more. And, let me look at that parking supply study that I found from 2018 and see what it says about these hours, because this is obviously a different peak, somewhat similar peak to O'Connor's, but other side of the M&R.
Actually, it'd be right out in front of his building.
I was gonna say, I
Right
came
now.
here Tuesday at 6:30, and I was one of two cars on all of Memorial except for the sheriff across.
Yeah.
Oh, 6:30 in the evening.
6:30.
Yeah, that's not a problem at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, during the day, it could be a little congested.
And that's
So
when we're
what's
busiest.
Yeah, when's your
Not at
peak?
night.
Tell us your peak again.
After dinner, probably around that
Yeah.
6:30 to 8:30 time.
Okay.
6:30 to
No, that's
8.
not a problem.
Okay. So,
Not a problem.
yep. Okay.
When school's in session, it's more an after-school thing, so like a 2 or 3, 4-ish.
With the high school kids, right? Or
Yeah, I mean, even now, like just families, it's
okay.
more after dinner when it's
They
busy.
park there with an
Yeah.
MTA permit or a merchant permit.
Yeah, there's some merchant spots at the,
Customers and vendors and
Yeah.
stuff.
Okay. Well, I'll look at just to be fair and consistent. I'll look at the parking supply study and see what it had to say. So just so you know, you cannot waive an environmental assessment.
Okay.
The board has to do it one way or the other.
Okay.
But luckily for you, your project is not an overly substantive one, so it might come under a category that allows you to not have to fill out that form. So Sarah and I will look into that, and we'll report to Amanda sometime in the next week, and she can report to you, because I would want you to get that short form filled out right away if indeed you needed to,
Okay,
so as not to lose time.
okay.
And so the public hearing,
That's it.
in fact, you could waive it if you wanted to. I mean, you don't have to hold a, by code, I don't think you don't have to hold a public hearing.
In this particular case, I would waive the public hearing.
So do we vote on that?
I
You
like
would
it.
vote to waive.
I like it, because I think we can open it, close it, and vote, and be done. What,
I mean, it's not gonna hold
It
them
doesn't
up
lose
on
time, yeah.
because you can hold it, potentially close, make a decision, or move on.
That being said, if
And
it's
at
not
least
gonna-
this would notify the neighbors, including
if it's not
Mr.
gonna hold them
Daniels.
up in time, we can open and close, that's not a problem.
Can't imagine anyone that wouldn't want a creamery.
I know.
Exactly, yeah, I know.
Yeah, you might get
Right.
a lot of support on the record.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I was just thinking of the time frame.
Yeah, we'll hold them.
Okay.
Okay, so if you're gonna set the public hearing, then you need to.
Yeah, so you would move to set the public hearing for the date certain next
Yeah, I'll make
month
that motion to set the public hearing.
for,
Sorry,
it's okay.
trying to put stuff away. For our
July meeting.
July meeting, July 8th. Thank
So we have a motion to set the public hearing.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay, so one of the things that you need to move on is the grease trap. That's an
Okay,
important
yeah, I
thing
can-
that you'll
I can
need to
connect with
have
her.
all that information as part of your
Okay.
upcoming submission. And when is,
June 24th, I believe.
yeah, I mean, you don't have to have like the permit from the DOH at that point, but you need to just have specifications of the grease trap.
Sure, yeah, I already started a conversation, because we had looked at another space about that, so.
Okay,
that-
great.
No problem.
I guess try to get a hold of a survey if Dave Daniels has one.
Right, so we didn't
Otherwise, the board
resolve
can
that.
consider the waiver at the next meeting. Or the meantime,
Well, I mean,
look
I think Dave Daniels would only have a survey of his own property,
Yeah, but
right?
I think that the most important thing is,
Okay, I understood your point
Yeah.
from before. You're saying you would take that if nothing, yeah,
yeah,
okay.
because I think otherwise the building is.
I'm with you.
Kind of where it is.
I'm with you.
That's
Well,
when we're
then,
not doing anything
if-
outside otherwise.
If that's the case, then it sounds like the board's not gonna, or is leaning towards not requiring a formal survey be created for this property. You may wanna consider the waiver this evening.
Yeah, because either way, it's a waiver,
Right.
right? Because even if it's Daniels,
Yeah, it doesn't sound like you're gonna ask them to hire a surveyor.
So looking at the aerial, right, this is it right here. Is this part of the building, is that over the line? Or is everything in this rectangle?
Everything's.
Everything's in the rectangle.
Yeah.
the thing about the GIS aerials is that they
Yeah,
can be,
it's not accurate.
the lines can be 10 to 15 feet
All right, so
off.
that's.
So it's really not a it's like a, it's not a
The
reliable,
building is in its
at that
property line,
scale.
there's a half or small alley driveway access.
It's on the property.
Okay. I mean, that's, that would be the only thing I would look at.
Okay. Okay. Okay,
And the view of this is Memorial here.
okay, thank you.
Driveway comes up, no, it's like this.
Memorial's on the bottom.
Okay,
Well, the bottom the other way. Memorial's over there.
Here?
Yeah.
No wonder, I keep thinking this is.
yeah, it's an odd arrangement.
Yeah, I'm going. I'm going. You guys.
Okay,
So
so
you vote
the.
on waiver?
Yeah, so we should decide on the waiver of the survey or not. Or are you not ready to decide on that, Mark?
I have to see it. It'll be 3-1, and so it does, to me, it doesn't matter, or I don't vote on it. It doesn't matter. It's not gonna stop it. You guys know the site, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
So I haven't walked it.
Yeah, I said we wait.
So I couldn't even figure out the map. And looking at the aerial, you know, so I clearly don't have an idea what the survey of the property line would be. My assumption is everything built is in the property line and they have access.
Yeah, I mean, they have access.
Right.
It's just don't put the tables and chairs on property that's not
Right.
under your control. Right.
You could actually make a motion to waiver that part of the
If you so
application?
choose. I might
Do we
get
have to
to.
though? As part of
Oh,
the-
do you have to motion it?
I don't-
Yes, you're granting a waiver, you would vote on it, yes.
All right.
You have to
I'll
decide
make a motion that we break that we don't need that.
the waiver of the survey.
The waiver of the survey.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Or you don't
I'm
have
gonna
to, you can
abstain.
just, yeah,
I'm
just
abstaining.
abstain.
Okay. All right.
All right.
all right,
We will see you guys next month.
okay, all right, thank you so much.
All right, you're welcome.
Have a great night. Okay.
Amanda, I made a note, but don't let me forget. Make yourself a note too about the type 2 versus the short form. I made a note, but I just don't want to forget.
I checked.
So I'm not going to be here at the next meeting. So I would provide this information in advance. And you'll be in great hands with Sarah and Amanda.
Muddle through. I did look up the type 2 list, subsection 18, if you want me to.
Is that the reuse and rehab?
Reuse of
Yeah.
residential commercial building.
Yeah.
Yep. where
Yeah,
it's permitted.
I had looked it up before. I was pretty sure we
Yeah.
had something there.
But that's good, because I think that should be submitted to the files, so Amanda should probably get that. Nope, you're going there before me.
Anything else?
Thank you.
No, nothing.
Just
Me.
adjourn it.
Motion? Am I allowed to make a motion? Close
What
the
about your
meeting?
minutes? Don't you have minutes?
We did that first.
If there's no other to come before the board, I make a motion we adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's it.